Before we start into the webinar, I have a quick reminder for you about ARIS. So as you already know, ARIS is the tool of choice to design, to analyze, to manage, and to optimize your business. ARIS is positioned as a leader for almost 20 years by leading analyst firms, and we can count on more than 25 years of business process experience. ARIS is trusted by more than 10 million users and thousands of leading companies. Today, it's my pleasure. Wait a second. Yeah. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Elke Bastian and Dr. Julian Krumreich as our ARIS experts. Elke Bastian is working with me in the ARIS product marketing team and is leading the GSC topics there. Dr. Krumreich is the responsible product manager for ARIS process mining. And these both persons will take us through a very concrete transformation example, and they will do that live in ARIS. And I am working as a director in the ARIS product marketing, and there I'm leading the topics around enterprise management system powered by ARIS. Today, I will be the host and the moderator of the session. Some very administrative stuff. At the end of the webinar, we will have a live Q&A session. So feel free to post your questions in the specific Q&A window already during the webinar if you want, so that we can answer them at the end. We will answer all the questions live too. And if you have any other questions, technical problems, etc., please just use the chat window. We will have colleagues in the background, and they will support you if you have some issues. So let's get started now. So today's webinar is the last of a series of 3 webinars on enterprise management system powered by ARIS. The webinars build on each other. It's a story which is taking you through the thrilling transformation of a fictive car company. The 2 first webinars you see recording are available for replay on our enterprise management system page, so you can review them. And today is about control, so how to secure your license to operate. So I take a short jump back into the story so that you can just start today if you haven't seen the other 2 webinars. So after having defined a new strategy, this fictive car company connected the strategy to the processes. And once they did that, they noticed that their NPS score, it's a Net Promoter Score, that this score was not as high as expected. So they had to take measures and process optimization to improve that. So now they have a business model up and running. All the players know how to work, and it's now time to make sure that it's really working fine. So it's time to secure the license to operate. If they don't, the company won't be allowed to further act on the market, basically. So they need to make sure the processes are running the way they should. They need to check that they comply with regulations and also that the risks are under control. So gaining greater end-to-end visibility of the operation and having transparency will be the job today of this company, so that they are able to optimize and to work further on the market. And the question is will they be able to do that? But before we start, before we go into the details, the theory, and also into the demo, I would like to get one customer speak on how they use ARIS. So it's a big French automotive bank. It's called PSA. It belongs to the Peugeot Group. And this bank is basically using ARIS over the complete life cycle. So that means that they are using ARIS to model and to define their processes. And the next step, they are using ARIS to understand how processes really run. And they are using this knowledge to get the insights on how to improve their processes. And by the way, there are many companies doing this, using ARIS this way, and that helps this company really to optimize processes, to reduce process runtimes, and some of them are also by 60%. So now I would like to have the customer speak for you.
In fact, we have started to use ARIS as we are a bank of the manufacturer, PSA, Peugeot, Citroën, and DS. We were used to work by processes, and we had a willingness of having a view of how the process was working. So we have digitalized all the review of the processes of the bank, starting from how do we sell to the customers on the point of sales, up to how do we finish the contract with the client. So that was the first analysis. Then we had the willingness to view how efficient we were on those processes. And Software AG came with the product PPM, proposed us to use it, and we have taken that product to evaluate how efficient we were and to give us a solution that was able to provide the good view on how could we improve and where was the problem and where could we adjust the processes to make it more efficient.
So that was for the customer perspective. So as we saw in this short statement, and as we also saw in the previous webinar on transform and optimize, a company or your company needs for sure to do the right things and also to need these things right. But still, it's not enough. You will also need to make sure that you keep your license to operate. And in a nutshell, to keep your license to operate means that you need to understand how running processes are really doing, to see if the procedures that you have defined are really followed. Yeah, so you can see if the processes basically run the way they should, the way you define them. And at the same time, your company needs to connect the risk and compliance information with the process management information and not to consider these both as two separated topics. So, and for that, an enterprise management system powered by ARIS will help your teams to collaborate on a single source of truth, which is equally relevant for risk management and for process management. So, and of course, you'll need to ensure that the processes and the standards defined are really followed, and that the analysis, discovery will make you able to discover the deviations on the processes. Yeah. And then if you discover some process changes, some process deviation, then you will have the right information to be able to correct the problems and to optimize the processes, basically. So as a result, if you use an enterprise management system, you will be able to secure this license to operate, I will call it, and bringing you insights on if the company is exposed to risk or how the company is exposed to risk and if these risks are really under control. So that helps to reduce, for example, fines from regulations. And also, if we look at the process conformance check, so looking at how the processes really run in reality, it really enables you to increase the efficiency of the operation and make sure that you have the right processes running the right way. As you can see, we have a lot of customer names and logo here. So we have many customers using ARIS for their risk and compliance topics, but also for their process mining and analysis topic. I just want to put in a more simple way what I just said before. So what your company needs is to define a business model so that you do the right things. In the second time, you need to optimize or to make sure that your processes run the best way so that you can be excellent on the market and lead the competition. And as said, and that's our part today, it's not enough to do the right things and to do the things right. You need to make sure that you are really doing the things right. So you need to control your business to have complete control of your organization. And that's more the theory part, what I just said. And now I'd like to go back, one step back to our transformation story to depict for you the benefits of securing the license to operate into ARIS. So as a short reminder, we had this example in the first two webinars. We had a fictive car company that was selling cheap or economical cars for everyone. Yeah. Then they got to analyze the situation and they looked at this Net Promoter Score, NPS, and they saw that this KPI was not good. And that's bad because the Net Promoter Score means analyzes the likelihood of customers promoting your company. So if it's not good, then you will have people saying bad things of your company, and that's a problem in the end. So analyzing this NPS score led to strategic change. So, and the company decided to start to focus not on price, but to focus on customer experience. And their goal became that they wanted to be the happiest customers company ever. So, but the question is, how do they have implemented the processes? But the question is the newly defined processes, are they compliant? Are these processes really doing what you defined at the beginning? Are they secure? Do they run the way they should? And do we see any deviations? And that's where the company basically needs to act on. So, and after this short introduction on the story, we will now have a look into the demo, and I will have Elke and Julian who will take over for the demo, and will show you the facts on really how to look at the compliance and the security of the processes that are running. So Elke, it's your turn now.
Yes, thank you, Joseph, for the nice introduction. Let me first share my screen to switch to the live demo. So, I hope you can see it. I just jumped into our product ARIS Connect, and I will now log in as Mark Manager, who has a manager role. And with this role, we will have a deeper look into our process and yeah, also the compliance topics and risks. So I log in. And then I jump into my management view. It takes a few seconds until the dashboard will load. So what you can see here is an overview of the year 2018. And you can see that our customer satisfaction score is not very well with 25.29. And also the NPS value over time is relatively low and at a constant level. And as Joseph explained already in the introduction, we did some improvements and a strategy change, and so we tried to improve this customer satisfaction score. So if I switch now to the year 2019, I can see that our score is already much higher with almost 60. And also the line in the NPS value over time chart is higher. And if I switch to the overall view, I can see how it really increased at the beginning of 2019 to the higher level. So we can see already that our measures were quite successful to improve customer satisfaction. But let's now have a deeper look into our customer journey. So I switched here into the purchase journey. And what you can see here is a summary of the single journey steps from change order over drive test car to select and configure the car. And you can see here some experience values, satisfied and pleased, some business drivers, customer experience, costs, business driver impact on transformation. And you can also see the single touch points, moments of truth, pain points, best practices, and so on. And what you also see here on the right of the lower table is that we have some risks that affect the satisfaction of the customer in this journey. And in our example, we will have a closer look at the delivery of incorrect car risk. But before we do this, we switch to the diagram view, where you can see a nice diagram of the customer journey. And you can also see here the single process steps on top with the related objects and also the related risks. As I said before, we will have a deeper look at the delivery of incorrect car risk, and we can see that the process step hand car over to customer is assigned here. So I mark this process step and jump directly into the related process. Okay, what you can see here is a BPMN model. You could also do it in an EPC model. And the process step is already highlighted here. It's the hand car over to customer process step. You can also see here that our risk is assigned. And if you look at other process steps, for example, you can see that there are also some other risks assigned that affect the success of this process. Okay, let's switch to our management view to have a deeper look at the risks. What you see here is a risk and controls dashboard about this order to cash process. And you can see on top the risks that are related. Again, our delivery of incorrect car risk as example. We have some controls that are related to this process. We have an overview of the test status of controls. We have some incidents recorded, some issues that were raised, and we also have a table with many details about the executed control tests and their results. So how does this dashboard help us? So if you have your risks defined in your process, that's not enough. You have to control them over time to go sure that they are really in control. And to do so, you can define tests for your controls and test regularly if your controls are really effective. And to do so, you can use several workflows that we also offer with ARIS. And you can document your results. And if you have, for example, some tests that are resulting as control not effective, you can define relevant measures to improve your controls, to be sure that your risks are really in control and as low as possible. So in this case, you can see that we have here a certain test case that resulted 2 times as control not effective, and another one that also resulted as control not effective. That shows us that our controls are not as good as they should be. You can also see that there were already some issues raised, and on the upper table, you can see that we also had some incidents in the past. And these incidents can also be documented to learn for future, to see where we have problems, and they also affect our risk management, our future risk management. You can also filter here by different risks and also by the single controls. Okay, you could see now that such an overview helps you very well to keep control of your risks and ensure that your processes are really compliant. And this also helps you to keep your customers satisfied. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Julian, who will check if the implemented controls, not controls, but processes are really executed as they should be.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Elke. So let me quickly grab your screen, and I will now hand over another part in the control story. So from a control perspective, it's not only important to manage the risks associated with processes, so as it was just highlighted by Elke, it's also essential to keep track if the entire organization is adopting to new processes or changes to existing ones. So as you might know from our previous webcast, so the former one, and which was also initially summarized by Joseph, we changed our initial process of the UMG organization in order to fully meet our customers' expectations and customer journeys. So after we've seen that our NPS score is way below what we wanted to achieve. So we then consecutively rolled out those changes to different groups within our organization. And you as the responsible process owner can of course keep also track on the adoption rate. And for that, we have created here a dedicated dashboard that shows you the current adoption status. So on the top left, you see, for example, that we scheduled the rollout among different user groups. So for some of them, it has already started, others are already planned, in others, yeah, that's a little bit later to be rolled out. What you can also see, and that's a great new functionality in ARIS Connect, is that users can attest that they have seen recent changes to a process. So they attest to the new version, and you can also see here in the dashboard how many of your users have already acknowledged the changes so that they are ready for the new procedure that is being rolled out. What you can also see, and that's also a great chance to improve your processes as a process owner, is that your employees can also express their satisfaction with the process and also with the changes associated with that. So here you can see our users are quite satisfied with 85%, which is above the threshold that we have defined. Also from a qualitative perspective, we see here some user feedback, so we can really make sure that also the employee journey, so not only the customer journey, which is of course one of the most important thing in our organization, but also our internal employer journey is also satisfied. Well, it's not only required that we now see that, okay, many of our users attested to the new version, but it's really also essential that we, from a technical perspective, keep track if the actual execution of the processes is compliant with what we have defined so far. And for that, we can use our so-called process conformance checks. So what you can see here on the right is that almost, or a little bit more than 80% of our executed processes are following the defined standard. So that's already pretty good. And as you can see here, that's almost in the threshold. So it's pretty close to the green section over here. And of course, you can also distinguish here between different regional differentiations. So now I'm interested a little bit more as a process owner in this adoption and conformance rate. And of course, ARIS provides you with all details that is required for that. So let me just jump here into another dashboard where you find even more information on that. So here again, you see, and this is the overall data that I have filtered, that the conformance rate has declined a little bit since the start of the new year. So since we have implemented the new changes. So that's quite normal. I mean, this is a new procedure. Some of your employees might still stick to the former way of doing their work. So the training was maybe not yet that effective, but as you can see, we have already improved in the last couple of weeks. So that's already a positive signal. So let me maybe drill down to the year 2019 so that we really just see the conformance rate after we have implemented those changes. So what you see here, again, our overall conformance rate is 81%, and we have 2 regional sales organizations that are performing very well, so they are above our defined threshold. But we also have 3 of them, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Frankfurt, which are below the average, below the threshold. So this is a clear indication that especially for these regions, we need to enact certain trainings so that our employees are really aware of the changes and to make sure that our customers are handled in a proper way, so in a way as we have designed it before. Well, ARIS also provides even more details. So it's not just about the conformance rate that we get here in an abstract number, so 81%. It also shows you in the top right what are the actual conformance issues that have led that the process is not compliant. So that could be a step that was executed, which should not be the case. So for example, a price change, I mean, that's a natural thing, but this is something which we don't want to have in our actual process, which is not in our standard procedure. So we need to get rid of that as often as we can. It's not only that we detect here steps that are executed which should not, it's also about a sequence. So maybe you have defined a sequence ABC, but your colleagues are performing the process in a way like BAC. So that could lead to some problems. Maybe you have created a purchase requisition just after you placed already the order. So these are all things that we want to get rid of and try to prevent. So conformance checks here provide really a good insight into what is really the process in reality and what can we change. Also quite interesting is here what you can see in the middle. This is our so-called function flow. So this is not modeled by a human in ARIS. So this is really something that is automatically discovered by our process mining tool. So basically it hooks onto your application systems like ERP systems. It extracts the required data and then shows you how the process is executed in real life. And what is great here, you see on the top, on the bottom left, that there are different variations how to perform and execute such a process. And what you can see, it's a little bit tiny here. What are the conformance rates of those different variations? So if I select, for example, the first 2 ones, which are 100% conformant to our standard procedure, you can see a clearly linear path. So that's what we call a happy path. If I now also select additional variations which are not compliant, so actually there are more than almost 30 variations just for the single process, you see that it's getting really messy. So there are steps like rejecting the contract, like changing the delivery date, changing the price. So all those things which you want to prevent from being happening in your executed processes. So this really provides you a transparency on what is happening in your organization, and it helps you to control not only the risks, but makes also sure that all your employees are compliant what you have defined before. And with that, I would like to hand over again to Joseph.
Thank you very much, Julian. Thank you, Elke. Thank you both for this great presentation and these insights. So I think your presentation made things pretty clear how an enterprise management system can look like in reality, especially looking at the control topic. So if I can sum it up and the other way around, like then you did that, what we saw is that Julian showed us in the dashboard that this enterprise management system, and in that case ARIS Connect and Process Mining, can really help you to understand your business. So it really gives you the key to look at the processes, to discover the processes. How do they run in Hamburg? How do they run in Saarbrücken? How do they run somewhere else? And to see the differences so that you can take actions on the processes and maybe train your users again, or to change some stuff in the system so that you really understand how it works or should work. So that's one thing. And what we also saw in your presentation, Julian, it was this conformance check. So really basically ensuring, looking at the processes and ensuring that they are compliant, and also track the process adoption there. So that was more the dashboarding part. And we also had Helke, thank you for that, Helke, that showed us really how to combine or to manage the risk related to the business. So we saw how the risk is combined to a process journey, a customer journey step, or to a process. We saw the combination of risk management and process management. We also heard that to support this risk, you can define appropriate controls and put them in place. That's the place where Elke spoke about test definition and all that kind of stuff. And in the end, of course, we saw that all that ensures that the processes really run compliant and conformant to what you defined before. So I think that gives us a really pretty good overview. And what I'd like to do right now is, in very shortly, to underpin this fictive story that you just had with us, I would like to come back with a short example. It's ING. It's a very famous global financial institution. Yeah, they are from the Netherlands, and they are offering banking services through the ING Bank. So they are famous. They are a very big company. It's more than 60,000 employees. They are acting in more than 40 countries. So and they are, of course, in an industry which is very sensitive, and where you really need to make sure that your processes are compliant and that you do everything right. Yeah. And what ING does with ARIS is really basically using that for process management, using that for risk management, and connecting both worlds of process management and risk management. So if we have a look back at their project, when they started, of course, they had challenges. And basically the problem was that they were really, they were operating in an environment which was really increasingly competitive. And I'm sure that also is true for your industry. And while having this competition, this fierce competition, they also had to deal with new regulation, new challenges, for example, GDPR. Yeah. And while they tried to deal with all that, they had controls, and these controls were really a problem for the company's agility. So it made them, it was more difficult to run the processes and to be somehow agile. So, and that's where they came in and really started to use ARIS in a big way, and they use really ARIS as an enterprise management system, and doing that really helped ING to simplify and to standardize their processes, their standard processes, and that worldwide. They used ARIS basically as the backbone, at the support for their integrated risk management system. So we call that the first line risk management. And finally, they also used ARIS, so the processes that were defined for the agile development. So basically using ARIS as their enterprise management system was for ING the key to set on the success path and to make sure that processes are really compliant and nothing goes wrong in the execution of the processes. If you want to see more examples, we have them also on this enterprise management system website. I will show you the link at the end of the webinar, so you can review everything that we said also today. So here a short summary of all 3 webinars, and also of today's webinar, of what we saw basically over the full lifetime of this enterprise management system. So basically what we see or saw is that we have dashboarding functionality that offers for the management, or for C-level, whatever management level we talk about, really some overview about the processes, about the situation, about the customer experience, or KPIs that we want to analyze. So you have one view on a dashboard where you see, okay, do my processes and my business run fine, or do I need to take action and have a look at what's happening? If you notice that you need to take action, then we have several tools there that really help you to better understand what's going wrong. So we have, for example, this root cause miner that we showed in the previous webinars, also that helps you really to understand reasons for bad KPIs. Our example was NPS, but it can be another example. You can have another KPI that you want to measure. And with this root cause miner, you really can find, supported by the system, find out why something is running wrong. Once you have that, that helps you, of course, to go into the process design again, into process refinement, and to create new processes to solve the problem so that your processes are running the way the business needs it. Yeah. While you are doing new process design, while you are refining your processes, of course, you can't do it on your own. Normally, you really need to have some governance over the processes. So it's management approval at this point. So where one person defines a new process, or one group of person defines a new process, and other group of person need to review these changes and approve the changes and trigger the rollout, for example. Once that's done, you have new processes, you want to roll them out. So that's what Julian mentioned previously. You have a new process, you want to train your users, you want to roll it out to make sure that users are really doing the right things and are working with the new processes. And that's what we mean with workforce enablement. After that, you've done the training, you rolled all your processes and changed it out, but you want to make sure that the adoption is working. So that was part of what Julian said today, is really you want to ensure that people are following the new processes. You want to make sure that they are doing it the right way so that your transformation or your strategic program is working fine. And last but not least, of course, the risk management topic plays an important role, especially when it comes to compliance and conformance of the processes with regulation, managing the risk with the processes, and making sure that everything is working fine. You have the right controls and people are working a legal way. So, and basically that's it. That's it for the content part. And with that, I would like to start the Q&A session, so which will be supported, of course, with my colleagues. If you have questions, post them into the Q&A window, if not done so already, and we will go through the questions. So let me have a start. So I have a question. I think that could be for you, Julian. What kind of connections do I need to have to generate the information? So I mean, I think it's about the information of the conformance check. How do I capture what's on my ERP and move that to ARIS Connect?
So I'm not 100% sure if I got this question right. So from a conformance perspective, I mean, on the one hand, you need a connection established to your application systems so that we are able to discover how your process is executed in reality. And on the other hand, you need a procedure that is prescribing the standard. So essentially a process model that could either be a EPC or also, of course, a BPMN model. Both is possible. And then we allow you to draw the connections. So in a mapping, you can define quite easily how a certain technical function that is discovered maps to a function that is modeled in ARIS. And with this kind of information, you can then have the system automatically analyze and calculate the conformance rate and get to all the different conformance issues.
Thanks for that. It was the same way I understood the question, so I hope it's fine. If not, please write again in the Q&A window. I think the other one you just answered, does the mining use only the top-down EPC? But maybe you want to add some stuff on that.
Yeah, so as I just said, so as the procedure that is used for the conformance check, we support basically any process notations, so EPPMN, BPMN, and of course also EPZ. So it should be possible for all of your process models that you are using. Then I think there was one aspect in your questions regarding top-down. Maybe that relates also to the visualization in the dashboard that you've just seen. Of course, you can also switch this more, let's say, EPC style visualization to more BPMN style visualization, so that you have the right colors in place in order to match it with your process models. You have different start and end nodes that is more closer to your aware notation. So this is of course also possible.
Thanks, Julian. I understood your question the same way like you did. I have another question which came in the chat to me. How can I make sure that the people really saw the new procedures? You mentioned that before, Julian. I think also Elke can say something about that. So how can I make sure that the people really saw the new procedures? How does that work?
I can take this, Joseph. Thanks. So with the new ARIS release, we introduce a new confirmation management capability that supports the use case read and understood. That means if you have new policies, new procedures, and so on that you want to roll out within your company, you can use this confirmation workflows, send these policies, guidelines, procedures, whatever, to the respective addresses, and they have to confirm that they saw them, understand them, whatever is requested in this case. And of course, you can also track this with ARIS and ensure that all the people that have to know this new information are informed.
Okay, thank you, Elke. I think I have another one, which is surely for you. You mentioned the topic of regulations. How does that work with GDPR?
Yes, thanks for this question. Very good topic. Of course, GDPR is more than relevant these days, and especially if we have a look at customer journeys, because as soon as you are in touch with your customers, you will also collect privacy data, and in this case you have to ensure that you are GDPR compliant. And being not compliant is of course a risk. And this GDPR risk you can also attach to your processes and to your customer journeys, and you can control them the same way as shown before, with the right controls, with information that you roll out to your employees, so they know how to handle this privacy data, for example. And in addition, we also provide some capabilities and accelerators with ARIS to handle all this GDPR topic. For example, we have a dedicated model for a record of processing activities that is requested for the GDPR topic, and some other useful capabilities to ensure that you are GDPR compliant.
Perfect, thank you. So I don't see any other questions now, but if you have ones, some afterwards, I'm sure some of you know how to contact us. So then, now we've come to the end of the webinar. So I'd like to thank you again, Julian and Elke, for your participation and your demo. Thank you. And to everyone else in the webinar, if you want to learn more, I mentioned that before, we have customer cases. We also have additional white papers, ebook, also the recordings of the previous webinars. It's all available on this site. So it's softwareag.com/EMS, EMS for Enterprise Management System. So you can always access this site with that. And that's it for today. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your attention. And the recording will be available latest next week on YouTube and on the website. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thanks to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice day.